Blue, you have the calm.
Alright. Welcome everyone to a special Memorial Day debate. We have Professor, as always, and we have a special guest, Sass From, who found a Link to Manhood Academy, made a comment on YouTube, and his comment was deleted so that we can bring him here for a live debate. I'd like to thank Sass From for coming here. And I had a little bit of a chance to speak with him before the debate. He mentioned that he agrees with a lot of the principles of the ebook, but he believes that some of the ideas and the application seem to be extreme.
Fanatical? Fanatical?
Fanatical? Yeah, fanatical. I guess you can call it fanatical, maybe militant. I don't know. But
cultish?
Extreme? Yes.
Well, I don't know if you guys share the exact same. You apply the principles exactly the same, so I'm just going to go with Plum.
Okay.
And
also, he did have some gripes about the professional victim debate, where Plum speaks to an alleged rape victim.
Awesome.
And many people thought that the debate on Plum's part was harsh, and it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I think we're going to have a great debate this time.
I'd like to rub all those critics the wrong way.
Well, it doesn't rub me the wrong way just because you talk to a rape victim. It rubs me the wrong way because it's more like...
Well, before we begin the debate, I have two issues before we begin.
Okay.
Actually, three. Number one, Blue, could you make sure we get the consent to record the debate? That's number one.
Yes, so,
number two...
as always, we record these debates, we post them online. We will not share the video portion of this debate, just the audio portion. It will be altered. Do we have your consent to post the audio version of this debate online?
Absolutely, as long as it's unedited.
All our debates are all unedited.
All debates are
The only thing edited is added, like the music at the beginning and at the end, but everything else is kept intact.
Okay, I mean, if I did have a music preference, could be like rock and roll or something.
Perfect. We'll get a music preference at the end.
Yeah.
I have my other issue is I don't have pants on right now. Can I debate without my pants on, or do you want pants on during this debate? Because I'm in my underwear right now.
As long as you don't put the camera down towards your crotch.
Well, that's what I'm worried about, because it's right about crotch level, but the camera's pointed up, so if I were to stand up inadvertently, you might catch sort of a ball shot. You know what? For safety's sake, I'm going to go ahead and...
It's not the first time I've ever seen man fit, so I think...
I'm going to go ahead and put my pants on just because I feel more comfortable debating with pants on. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, issue number 3. Let's go ahead and clarify what we're debating about, and let's get to it. Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right, you have the floor, Sastro.
Okay, so let's see. I have something written down here. It's pretty much, if a girl gets raped for withholding sex for a prolonged period of time in a relationship, she is responsible in part for her getting raped.
If a girl is in a sexual relation, could you repeat? I'm sorry, just repeat that one more time, please.
Okay, if a girl gets raped for withholding sex,
right,
for a prolonged period of time.
Wait, what do you mean a prolonged period of time? Could you clarify that part?
The rape victim, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was, some ridiculous like that.
Are you talking about the girl in question from the last debate, or are you talking about just any hypothetical?
Well, both. Like,
both. Well, one is just an arbitrary thing, and the other one is she said she was in a relationship, but I'm not sure about the particulars of the relationship, so I'm not even clear. I kind of have a gist of like the rape. The point that I was making in that debate was that they were in a relationship, and then supposedly the rape occurred. So that was the main issue, that they were in a relationship. The time was irrelevant to me, whether it was 1 week or 2 years in the relationship. The fact that they're in a relationship, they both acknowledge they're in the relationship, that was the relevant fact to me, not the timeline of the relationship. So I don't know if it was 2 years exactly or if that even mattered to you, but it did matter to me.
I think me and you both have an understanding of, like, when a girlfriend withholds sex from you from a prolonged period of time, she has an issue with her attraction to you. Right,
but I would say, but the point was, as far as the rape goes, I think the point you're trying to establish is that they were in a relationship. That was the main point, not the timeline of how long it was going. So the fact that they were in a relationship and she was withholding sex. Okay, that's yeah.
Exactly. That's fine.
Okay.
So if she's in a relationship and she withholds sex, she is responsible in part for her getting raped if the guy decides to take what he wants.
Yes, agreed. I agree with that statement.
Well, my opinion and my view is that she's dumb and naive.
Wait, before you do that, could you speak up? Because we're making this audio, and it's going to be weird if my voice is loud and your voice is quiet. That's going to make it hard. So just speak as loud as you can.
Okay. Is that better?
That's perfect. Just speak loudly, and I can hear you perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, she's dumb and naive for being in a relationship, right?
Right.
She shouldn't be in a relationship if she is not sexually active.
Right. There should be no reason for anybody to get into a relationship unless sex is understood in that relationship, because there's no other reason to even have you can have a friendship, or your acquaintances, but there's no reason to officially declare yourself a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a wife, a husband, any kind of intimate romantic relationship without sex involved in that relationship. There's no reason.
Mm-hmm. Okay, exactly. But on the other hand, what I'm getting at is no means no.
No doesn't mean no, especially with girls.
Are you sure?
Positive. I have a lot of experience with girls. I mean, even popular culture tells us no doesn't mean no. There was I wanted to post this sign I just read, with this feminist, there's the campaign that says, I need feminism because, and girls hold up signs that say, I need feminism because, ... and they put their reason underneath it. And, one of the reasons was, yes doesn't always mean yes, and no doesn't, it was a convoluted take on the no means no meme that's kind of popular. But her sign was, yes doesn't always mean yes. That epitomizes the female mindset. If yes doesn't mean yes, then that means yes means no as well. So, I don't understand how a woman could, okay, there's two things, most guys won't understand this because most guys don't have an understanding of how to attract a woman, but I have I teach how to form relationships with people, and I, of all people, am qualified to say that women don't know how to state their needs. They don't know how to state what they want, and even women don't know what they want. So, a woman may be fine with a relationship, but she may be taught culturally that she doesn't want a relationship. She may not feel like she wants a relationship, but women are not in a position to judge what is good or bad for them because they do not have the capacity to even carry that kind of responsibility. Our whole site, especially a lot of our visitor section, details the countless ways in which women are completely irresponsible, are not accountable to their own behavior. They demonstrate time and time again that they are no different than children in their behavior. They want to have their cake and eat it too. The legal system we have today reflects that. The social norms we have reflect that. Their behavior towards the site reflects that. In every way, shape, and form, women have demonstrated that they are like children in their mentality, in their reasoning, in their hypocritical approach to life. They are in no way qualified to make decisions for themselves, let alone others. Okay, that's number one. That's the number one established fact. Number two, guys who have no experience dealing with women have the same mindset as you, that they think that women say exactly what they mean. Just like guys, they think, when you're with a guy, you think he says, show up at, or I'm going to call you tomorrow, it means I'm going to call you tomorrow. It's a simple thing, right? With a guy, it's understood that that's going to happen. But with a girl, it's not. And guys don't realize that. So they get very angry when, the woman says, I'm going to call you tomorrow. And they're like, this bitch said she was going to call me. She didn't call me. They don't understand it. The reason why it's not even in their mentality, or it's within their grasp of reason, because men don't understand how women communicate. They think that women are very little like men. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But this is not the case. Women make emotional decisions all the time. If they like you at a bar or at a party, for example, they will be they'll be more than happy to make a promise to you. I will call you. I will date you. I will hang out with you. And then you may never hear from them. I've had this happen countless times. I've gotten plenty of asked out plenty of women, gotten their phone numbers, thought it was a great interaction, called them the next day, no answer. Texted them, no answer. Just off the map. And they'd give you no reason why. This is because women make emotional decisions. They don't make decisions where they feel accountable, where there's some kind of consequence if I don't do something. Because society even permits this. They allow women to make decisions and just not be held accountable for any breaking of that decision or breaking of that vow or breaking of that promise. There's no consequence. So if I make a promise to you to do something and I don't do it, in a woman's mind, it's not really a promise. Even the fact that women promise and use words like I promise, I swear, I will, any type of vowing or oath-based language, it doesn't even register in their mind as something they need to keep. It's just an emotional decision. It's emotional yes. They feel like they want to call you right now, they will say yes. And then tomorrow, they're not going to say, well, I don't feel like it, but I made a promise. No, they simply say, how do I feel today? I don't feel like calling. I don't feel like picking up the phone. I don't feel like dating this guy I just met. I have a totally different emotional response today. Therefore, what I said doesn't apply to me. So because women feel that their word does not apply to them, and yet hypocritically they want to hold men accountable to their word, you just can't have a system, a legal system, a social system, any kind of functional system where only one gender, 50% of the population, is bound by their word, and the other 50% is completely absolved of their word. It just will never work. It'll never function correctly. The legal system we have today is an example of that. The social system, the divorce rate, all the problems we have facing society that are the social in nature are a direct result of this not holding one gender accountable. So if we realize this, that women are accountable to their word, well, we have to do one of two things. We either have to just forget about our rights entirely as men and just say women rule us, which is it's silly, but that's the alternative, is to say, well, we don't hold you accountable, we're just going to hold ourselves accountable. That means we have to just basically neglect all of our needs, neglect all of our rights, neglect anything that we care about, and just basically we're in a sacrifice mindset. Whatever women are doing, we're just going to sacrifice to make it happen. No guy will live for that. No guy will eventually tolerate that. No guy will want to live under that system. And even we see that today, guys rebelling. We see men's rights groups forming. We see men going their own way. We see pickup artists. We see the seduction community. We see all types of offshoots of guys saying, fuck that, fuck this social system setup that's against me. So guys aren't definitely going to put up with that. The other alternative is to start being realistic about how we view women. And the fact that we can't even have this conversation. I mean, I can't even get men's rights activists, so-called men's rights activists, who are supposedly speaking on my behalf. I can't even get... They're fucking pussies. I can't even get into a conversation with them. I can't even get into a debate with them. Imagine what type of emasculated faggot you have to be fearful of talking to another man over the internet over a disagreement. I can't tell you how many countless times I've challenged these pussies, and how many countless times these pussies have challenged us and never followed through, never showed up. Can't even have the discussion. That's like a woman. If you shut down discussion, you're not qualified to even govern the discussion. If a woman is not qualified to come to debate, or she won't debate, she won't talk about an issue that she wants to affect your life, wants to affect society, wants to affect the legal system, she's not willing to discuss that issue with you, she's not even qualified to govern, let alone even decide her own fate, decide her own life. She has no right to govern my life. If she is so scared, so intimidated to even have that discussion with me, she's not qualified. She's a child, and I need to treat her as a child. And if I make that determination, and I think we presented enough evidence to support our case that women are children in their mentality, that means we need to make decisions for them, just like we make decisions for children. We don't make, parents, nobody says parents are being evil toward their children because they're deciding whether they go to the dentist or not, whether they eat their vegetables or not, whether they go to school or not. They just view it as the parents know what's good for their children. They're acting in the best interest of their children, and they know their children, if they were left to themselves, they'll end up like Lord of the Flies. They'll make all kinds of childish decisions. So, therefore, they say it's okay if parents make decisions for children. They're qualified to do that. In the same right, we need to start saying men are qualified to make decisions for women because women have demonstrated they're not qualified to make decisions for anyone else, or themselves, let alone anyone else. I'd never want a woman governing me or making decisions for me based on my conversations with women, based on the competence, or rather incompetence, shown by women in social interactions with them. I've yet to find a woman who's qualified to govern me. So, does that clear up my position as far as this matter of rape goes? What I mentioned before, as far as the relationship goes, is that I think most people have the problem with, because they view women still as men. They view them as just another guy. It's like saying, well, two guys are making a decision. Who has the right to govern the other? They're just both guys. But this is not the case. If you are looking functionally at this case, you'll realize men should be governing women. Right now, to show that women aren't qualified to govern, this is why I interpreted her case this way, where she said, well, in the relationship I was in, I was raped, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, if you're an adult, you need to bear the consequences of your decision. This is to teach women, not that they're qualified, but that they aren't adults. That's the whole point of telling her this. I was telling her that this so-called rape is okay because she chose, supposedly as an adult, to get into a sexual relationship with another adult. So at that point, she's accountable. She's putting herself in the situation. Just like the police will tell you, well, I shouldn't be mugged when I go down the street. You should be protecting me. But the police will also tell you, hey, don't leave cash hanging out of your pockets. Hey, try not to walk through this bad neighborhood at 3 a.m. at night. Hey, try not to just lounge on the street with all your valuables out. Hey, try to roll up your car windows at night, right? Why do they tell you all these tips? If society should treat you just like a woman, shouldn't they be catering society around you and saying, hey, thieves and muggers don't mug, don't steal? Shouldn't they be telling you that instead of saying to you, hey, be responsible for your life, be responsible for your possessions, be responsible for your family? Why do they even tell you this? Why don't they do the same thing with men and say, hey, men, don't worry about it. You don't have to be accountable for your life. We're going to make society bend around you. Why don't they do that? Why don't they do that with men? They don't, because they consider men to be adults. They consider men to be responsible, even boys, teens. So if we consider men should be accountable, why not women? So I say to women, if you get in a sexual relationship and you get raped, there's no such thing as rape when you're in a relationship. I'll consider rape when you're not in a relationship and that person just abducts you. Great. I'll say that's rape. I'll support you 100%. That man should be thrown in jail, bury him under the jail. Fine. But if you're in a relationship, it's implied that there's sex is going to be involved. So as long as you're in that relationship, there's no such thing as rape. That's ridiculous. That's a childish view of a relationship. That means you always want to have your cake. You always want to be the helpless, defenseless victim. And yet, over here, you want to be an adult and have the adult rights and privileges of an adult. You don't get both. You got to make a decision. Adults have to decide whether they're going to be helpless infants, which get all the benefits that helpless infants get along with all the restrictions and limitations. If you're going to be a helpless infant, right, you get restrictions and limitations on you. You're not allowed to go out when you want. You have to be accompanied by an adult. You can't do whatever you want.
Right here, and I want to hear from Safram. So, your comments.
Okay, well, I agree with you mostly on that because, like, have you ever read any articles from Dan Savage? He's like a Seattle journalist.
Yes. Yes. He's a pussy.
There was an article there that infuriated me where he wrote that there's a woman that wrote in that her man got a motorcycle and she didn't like that. She thought that was too dangerous for him. She thought he was threatening his life by riding a motorcycle. So she says, what do I do to make it so my man won't ride this motorcycle because I don't want him to endanger his life? And Dan Savage was just like, hey, my husband, he grew a mustache when I was away for a week doing, a seminar or something. And he came back, and he knows I hate mustaches, so I withheld sex from him for a week to make sure that he would get rid of that mustache.
Wait, I'm assuming that means Dan Savage is gay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right. So it's like I was just trying to think of it in like male and female terms. He'd be like the woman withholding sex from the boyfriend, basically.
Exactly.
Until you get your way.
Telling this to the woman, thus perpetuating that mindset. That just, if a girl did that to me, I would dump her immediately. It's like, go fuck yourself.
Right, okay, well, we agree on that. I want to get to the disagreement. What part do you disagree with?
Okay, so the accountability part is, it's like, okay, you're in a relationship for 2 years, you didn't have sex. At what point do you, as a guy, do you not just say, fuck it, I'm moving on?
Right, this is two different issues, though. You're talking about a guy who is putting up with a girl, and I believe she said, I let him know up front that this wasn't going to be a sexual thing or something. Why even get in the relationship then? Or why even make this pretense of we're boyfriend, girlfriend, going to be husband, wife, going to be engaged? Why even say all that? Because it's implied that once you get together, there's going to be sex involved at some point. So the fact that a guy would even put up with this is a secondary issue. This guy's a complete pussy for even putting up with it. But it looks like he didn't put up with it. It looks like he went forward and just enforced his will on her. But again, I'm saying to make women accountable, or more to the point, to show women that they're not accountable, we need to say that there should be no provision for rape whenever there's a relationship is already established. There should be no out like that. That would force women to become accountable, or at the very least to say, if I get in this relationship and this guy rapes me or has sex with me against my will, I can't complain that it's rape. So I have to decide, I have to be responsible and say, number one, should I be in a relationship with this guy? And number two, am I even ready for a relationship where sex is involved? Right now, as childish infants pretending to be adult women, they don't have to make that decision because the law protects them. Our ridiculous, phony, hypocritical, fraudulent legal system protects them from having to make that decision, protects them from having to be adults. So that's why I said she shouldn't be able to make this rape charge. It's ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous.
It is, but then again, I think me and you both agree that it's a balancing scale. When you take accountability away from one side and put more accountability on another side.
Right.
Like, I would rather have way more accountability on the guy's side because rape is a far greater evil than just withholding sex from somebody.
Okay, if we're going to say that, then we got to balance it. But that's the problem. It's not balanced. If guys have the accountability on their shoulders, that means by default, women have to have more limitations and restrictions on what they're allowed to do.
I'm all for that.
Hey, I'm all for that too. I'm not giving you my absolute view. I'm giving you my relative view relative to the situation. If it was my absolute view, women wouldn't even be able to be allowed to decide the relationship parameters. They wouldn't even be able to they wouldn't be allowed to pick who they're getting into a relationship with. That would be a man's job to do that. Either their father or somebody else. They wouldn't even be allowed to make that decision. So that's my absolute side view. This view where I'm saying this woman shouldn't be able to press rape charges, that's just based on the current bullshit system. This is just designed to show women that they're not adults. It's just to expose that problem. It's not really to solve the problem. So the solution I'm giving you doesn't solve the relationship problem. It just exposes the problem.
Okay. So, I mean, that's the part when she started, getting in tears, right? Because you were saying that, you were in part responsible for...
Right. On one hand, she as a child, she doesn't want to hear that she's responsible. All she's focusing on is how the world is bad to her. That's what a child does. They don't focus on what they've done. They focus on what other people have done to them. That's the difference between an adult and a child. An adult will examine, are my actions correct? Are my actions moral? Are my actions right? Are my actions functional? Whereas a child will only go, what are you doing? What are you doing to me? And that's where she felt like the victim, like I was just attacking her. I just wanted her to be raped. I just wanted her to be assaulted. Like I had no concern for her. When she's not realizing she has no concern for the guy. She's just using him. Women always accuse men of objectifying them. Oh, you just view me as a piece of meat. You just view me as a bikini, as a body, just a fuck. That's exactly what she's doing. She doesn't view this guy as a human being who's worthy of respect, a respectful treatment. I mean, look how she treats him. Look how she treats his sexuality. She takes advantage of it. She knows she can get favors from him, but she's doesn't have to put out. I mean, she's just using him, exploiting him. That is the epitome of objectification. So she of all peoples that is the ultimate hypocrite here. She's treating this guy like he's just a table, a lamp. She could play around with his feelings, do whatever she wants with him, with no consequences. Oh, now there's a consequence. Oh, now he did something bad to me. Oh, poor me. What about him? She's completely objectified him.
I agree, but let's put the shoe on the other foot here. Like, say hypothetically, if you got drunk, went to a bar,
okay,
and you went home with a chick, drunk, but you sobered up at the end of the night, and
right,
you started deciding that you didn't want to, you didn't want to go through with it. If
right,
you're at a place and you're, like something happened, you think she's like got a fucking STD or something, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You decided to do it, but she roofies your drink.
Okay.
Right? So you wake up with your pants down and bloody. Like, I mean, where's the accountability right there?
Okay, that's different. We're not in a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. We're just having a one night stand, whatever. I mean, aren't I rolling the ball? I mean, aren't I rolling the dice there? I'm drunk already. I'm already making irresponsible decisions. It's kind of hard to say at that point, well, I'm drunk. I've asked a woman over. I've come over to a woman's house. She's roofied my drink. I mean, there's so much irresponsibility on both sides. It's hard to just say, oh, well, obviously she roofied, so roofie's bad. I mean, what about my decision? I'm not a responsible adult. I shouldn't be held accountable for drinking and just putting myself in this bad social situation where I'm inebriated and can't make competent decisions. Where's my liability in this? So we either need to decide that we're adults and stop being pussies and stop coddling everybody and stop trying to instead of realizing we're trying to divide up an ice cream. And there's two ways to do it. You can be an adult about it and realize 1 micron of mass of that ice cream is always going to be bigger on one side. There's no exact way to split it 50-50. If you realize that, you're not going to worry if this guy gets 20 grams and you only get 18 grams of ice cream. You're splitting it. That's the essential point. You're sharing. That's the principle. You're sharing the ice cream. But you could be in today's legal climate, in today's legal system, where you can't split the ice cream unless it's exactly 21 grams each. To the micron. Not just 20. It has to be exactly 20.00000, not 20.0001. That's the legal climate we have today, where we're so concerned about each little iota of the law that we lose the whole principle of the point of the law. So if we live in that legal system, there's always going to be a loophole. There's always going to be a loophole. Our tax system, prime example, there's always a loophole. There's always a loophole to if you really don't want to pay your taxes, there's always a loophole. So if we make the law simple, we say you have to pay your taxes, not there's loopholes to get through, because all we're doing is saying there's holes in the dike and you got to plug your finger in there and hopefully get all the holes. No, you need to build a good dike in the beginning so that you won't have to deal with all these cracks in the system. Same with the tax code, same with laws. You have to build a proper foundational law where the spirit is stressed, the spirit of the law is stressed. So for instance, in that case, the ice cream, if we're saying share, the point of this law that we're making is to share the ice cream, to divide it, so that everybody gets a portion that meets their need. Not, the point of the law isn't divide it so everybody gets the exact same amount down to the last, measurement of weight. That is not the point of the law, but people have made that the point of the law. They have missed the spirit of the law, and they're just concentrating on these little iotas, there's always some little loophole, some little thing to get distracted on. If you get focused on that, that is why our legal system is so convoluted. Nobody understands the legal. Why do you need a lawyer? You really shouldn't even need a lawyer. It's an embarrassment that we need lawyers to handle legal disputes. If there was a legal dispute between you and me, we should just be able to go to a judge and present our sides, and the judge decides. We shouldn't need a third party who is specially versed in the law because it's so fucking ridiculously complex that we need another guy to speak a foreign language just to interpret our case for us. That is ridiculous. That is an epitome of silliness. That we need another person to present our case for us because it's so complex. We wouldn't understand it otherwise. I mean, think of that. It's normal to us, right? You think, oh, if I get an illegal dispute, I gotta hire a lawyer, right? It's just instinct. But think about if you did that with your friends. Like somebody stole something from you and you had friends around, you had 8 friends around, you gotta decide something. Would you go, well, hold on, I gotta hire a special friend who's versed in these matters of theft. And I'm gonna hire him to present my case to you, and this friend will hire another person to present his case to you, and you guys will decide that based on what these guys say on our behalf. Imagine that. It's ridiculous to us, right? We just say, if you and me have a problem, we'll take it to our buddies, we'll say, hey, this guy did this, and this guy did, what do you guys think, right? We'll just get the opinions. They'll judge it. We're trusting them to give us an objective opinion. And we're trusting that we're smart enough to just present the case. Present what we feel is the moral thing, the just thing, the right thing, regarding our actions in the case. But yet now we have this whole system which we accept that is, it's beyond us. The tax code is beyond us. We gotta hire a tax advisor. The legal code is beyond us. We gotta hire a lawyer. Otherwise we can't even function in the court. It's such a silly process. This just demonstrates that people are so utterly fucking missing the point of the law. They're so weighed down by each little semantic of the law that they don't even understand the point of the law. So if we get involved in this kind of situation as we're in right now in this current social and legal climate, there's no way to fix everything. Because we're always going to be like, well, is it fair in this regard? In this regard? What about in this situation? What about at night? What about at day? What about, with certain friends? What about certain family members? The marriage laws, the divorce laws, how much do they get? How do we decide alimony? What's the formula? Imagine when you hear about it and you think, this husband gets the child 70% or 30% of the time, and the woman gets the children 70%. How do you even decide on a percentage, let alone figure out the percentage of time? I mean, it's just silliness. The fact that we're down to the iota of the law, it makes life unbearably complex.
All right, and let's go to Saffron. You can comment on what he just said.
Okay, well, there's an organization out there called Common Good that's trying to deal with that, but, I know what you're saying with putting holes in the dike, right? You're trying to constantly plug up any loopholes and make sure that nobody can get around the law, pretty much. So, I'm trying to draw the conclusion of why the law is to do, restore accountability and stuff like that. Make sure that people are accountable for
it only restores accountability if you can enforce it. For instance, if I say, don't disturb your neighbor, right? That's a law. That's a precedent. It's just saying respect your neighbor's presence. He's right next to you, right? That's a principle. So we can rule on that. But then we could say, well, I want to cover every iota of the law. So now I say, don't play your radios at 10 decibels, higher than 10 decibels. I don't know if that's correct, but I'm just using an example. Don't play higher than 10 decibels. But now, did we cover iPods? No, then I need to write another law that says don't play iPods higher than 10 decibels. Now, what if I play 2 radios at once with a combined 5 decibels each? Just assuming we could add decibels. Do you see how there's many ways to circumvent that law if I'm creative enough and if I don't care about the spirit of the law? I can legally meet the standard of that law, but I'm not actually respecting the law. I'm actually trying to break the law in a legal way. So we should not be concerned with the legality. We should be concerned with the principle that the legal system is trying to represent. The law is not just there arbitrarily just to make rules that are difficult to follow. It is there to enforce a principle. For instance, the law, where they have leash laws, where you're supposed to keep your dog on a leash. The leash laws aren't there to prevent you from having dogs or playing with your dogs. They're to prevent you from your dogs getting loose and biting the neighbor or preventing chaos, right? They're to enforce a principle where there should be harmony in the community. The point of the law, though, is not to have your dog on a leash, because now if we say, well, I have my dog on a 70-foot leash, right? Now we got to make another law that says he must be on a 6-foot leash. So if I only care about the letter of the law, I can break the law legally. There's many ways to do it, and we always do it. That's why our laws are so unbelievably complex, because everybody is trying to break the law in a legal way. They're trying to not be held accountable to the law because they don't respect the law. Because they don't respect who's giving the law. The people who are giving the law reflect, if they're not able to enforce the fact that you should be respectful of your neighbor, if you can't enforce that, no amount of laws will make that happen. Just adding, people just think, just add more laws. It'll just cover all loopholes. Never happens. Never works. People always find, technology, a prime example. The way technology moves, it always has a jump on a law. It's funny. They had a commercial that said, when they talk about piracy, anti-piracy laws, they said, you wouldn't download a car, would you? And it's trying to make an extreme example, like you could actually download a car. But we know we can't download a car. We can only download like music. But now with technology, we got 3D printers. How far away will it be where we can actually download the blueprint for a car and just print out a car? Right? So there's eventually a loophole with every law you don't want to obey. You could be legally meeting the standard of that law if you don't really care about the law. So just setting up the legal precedent is not the issue. It is making people accountable. The whole debate is really about accountability. Women are not accountable. So whether we say they're sexually assaulted, raped, whether they're unwelcome advances, whatever we call it, in whatever circumstance it's under, if we don't, at the heart of this issue, make women accountable for their behavior, it doesn't matter what we call it. We're going to have to be coddling them with any number of situations.
Okay, so let me clarify. So you're saying that there is no way legally, but maybe socially, that we can make the accountability on both sides equal. So it's like if a guy.
No, because you have to have the capacity to do that. Well, you're assuming that women are just as capable as men. They aren't. That's why the accountability shouldn't be 50-50, which they're trying to do today. Feminism is like, well, we want equal rights, but that goes with equal accountability. That's not possible. Women simply don't have the capacity. They haven't demonstrated that they have the capacity to be just as accountable as men. I mean, they got to lower the standards in the fire department, the army, any physical occupation. They got to lower the standards for women. So already women aren't accountable physically, at least. How can we hold women accountable 50% of the time, or in an even Steven way, if they can't even fucking do their job? We have to pick up the slack for them. So how can we ever talk about a legal system or a social system which holds us equally accountable when women already demonstrate right off the bat they're not accountable? They can't meet the standard. They don't have the capacity to meet the standard. If you don't have the capacity, you shouldn't be held accountable. Just like, in reality, I wouldn't hold women accountable because they should have more rights and restrictions put upon them. They're not accountable. Men should be held accountable because men have the capacity. But by the same token, men should be governing women's lives, not vice versa. Men should be in charge of women. That's what we always teach guys in your relationships. Men should be in charge of the relationship. And the proof is in the pudding, because the funny thing is, it's not just a social, a legal principle that's a good idea, but it's a social principle as well, because when men aren't in charge of women, we get manginas, we get emasculate males, we get guys that end up in the friend zone. We get guys on Reddit who are always complaining, I never get sex. We get guys who complain, I only get sex once a week, once a month. Those guys are definitely not in charge of their relationship. When a guy is in charge of their relationship, what's that?
Not in charge of themselves.
Well, not in charge of the relationship either, in either sense. So if they're not in charge of that woman, when they are in charge of that woman, the woman is more sexually turned on and will meet his sexual needs. Like, men right now think like women, their vagina will just hurt, or they just don't want it, or they got headaches. Like, they have all these bizarre notions of how often women want to have sex or can have sex, just because they're not in charge of their relationship. I've never had that problem. I've dated different types of women, and I never had the problem where, couldn't get enough sex. I only get it on Tuesdays. Never had that problem. Never even had to ask, like, honey, is it okay tonight? I never had to ask. It was just understood. I mean, it's a foreign concept. I can only imagine what guys are going through in their relationships. Honey, can I get a blowjob today? Can I get sex today? I don't even imagine how they initiate sex or how they have it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I've witnessed it personally, but then we're getting on to the debate of enforcing your authority, and now that starts to get into kind of a concept where it's like it's almost like, where the girl gets kidnapped and she falls in love with her captor.
Like a Stockholm Syndrome, so to speak.
Yeah, Stockholm Syndrome.
Right.
That section in ebook of enforcing your authority and how she starts loving you because you're, just putting a fucking kibosh on her during her life. That totally sounded like Stockholm Syndrome. I
mean, even the fact that works should tell you something about authority. I mean, this is a guy abducting a girl, the stranger, right? So, and it's like a completely, you would think you would think rationally it seems like that girl would be horrified of that guy and never want anything to do with that guy, but yet the opposite happens. Why? Authority. Authority is attractive. I mean, think of all the serial killers and rapists who get millions of letters and, they get marriage proposals from women. Why? Why does Chris Brown get all these, after he beat Rihanna, girls saying, oh, I wish he would beat me. Why? I mean, why is the S&M novel, 50 Shades of Grey so popular with women? Talks about all, bondage, you do what I tell you to do. Why? We always, society sends the total opposite message. Always ask permission, always be respectful of women on dates, always do that. Why? Right? Reality is completely different than the media's feminist notion of how men should handle. I mean, I just posted this Doritos commercial where this kid is leaning over, there are two kids sitting in a car, this guy and his teen girl that he's on a date with, and the narrator says, are you just gonna sit there? Implying that you gotta make a move, you gotta make a sexual move. And he leans over real quick and just kisses her. It's like very awkward. She's like, this is like a blank stare, and he just kisses her, and he's just kind of like eating his Doritos advertisement. But the social setting is kind of familiar to people, and they're going, that's saying, as a guy, you gotta make the move. She doesn't know she's not gonna tell you, hey, can you kiss me now? And he's not gonna ask like a feminist wet dream when he would go, honey, is it okay if I kiss you on the lips for 1 second? And she'd write, yes, I give you permission to do that. You have consent to do that. Not gonna happen. So why would they ever dare make a commercial like that? That's like rape. Under feminist criteria, that's rape. He didn't ask her permission, he just went over and kissed her. That's like street harassment. That's like rape. So the fact that he could do that, and society's okay with that, lets us know there's these silly double standards where on one side, we say, well, we gotta protect and coddle women, make new laws for them, sexual street harassment laws, rape laws, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other hand, oh, by the way, we'll also make it romantic. No, you can't have both. And there's a disintegration on the romantic side because we're always trying to enforce the legal side, the legal protections for women. Women don't realize the more legal protections we give them, the more we make the climate more unromantic for them. Women always wonder, oh, why can't this guy be in charge? Why can't this guy be in charge? You need to tell him, because you dumb bitch, you're the reason why he can't be in charge. If he was in charge, you would cry rape.
Yeah, I have no refute on that. So, let's see here, getting back to, so when we're getting back to the 2-year relationship thing. Now, since he's not enforcing his authority, right?
Right.
So, in your ebook, you stated that enforcing your authority is when somebody, like the male, he's able to meet everybody's needs and expectations, including his own.
Right.
At the same time.
Right.
That's not going to happen. I mean, that's more often. I mean, sometimes you'll be able to do that, but you're going to have conflicting interests no matter what. You're
talking about two different things. You will have conflicting interests, not me. If you're having conflicting interests, you're not in charge. That's a simple tale.
So, I mean, even if your expectations are perfectly functional, you will. I mean, if they're completely they're not dysfunctional at all. They will always be able to be met along with. They
won't always be able to be met. It's not what I said. A lot of times you'll go into a relationship with mainly dysfunctional expectations, not functional expectations, bad expectations, because you don't know how to run a relationship. That doesn't mean.
And that's a pussy faggot that you're talking.
Well, no. It could also be like a guy who just he wants to have threesomes, like he wants to have a relationship with 3 girls at the same time. Dysfunctional, but he can do it. It's possible to enforce it. That's not the issue. It is really the problem with a lot of guys is just enforcement. They don't know how to enforce an expectation. That's really the main problem. They don't know how to get the expectation met. So it's not a matter of if they have a good or bad expectation. It's what do they do to enforce the expectation. I mean, Hitler had terrible expectations, but he was able to enforce them. So the expectation you have, yes, it's great if it's a functional expectation, but it's just as important for you to know how to enforce it. Otherwise, even having a good expectation is meaningless if you can't enforce it.
Right.
We have so many good intentions we can't enforce. What's the point of that?
Well, then that gets back to the story in your ebook about how you were in a bar scene and a girl touched your shoulder. Is this ebook, by the way, done by you or like a group of people, or where did you get this ebook?
Well, there's 2 main authors, but there's definitely contributions by other people and their experiences. They kind of color it, but it's mainly myself and Dr. Ladice.
Dr. Ladice, okay. And who is this man?
What's that?
Who is this man? Dr. Ladice.
He's one of the authors of the ebook. It's not really relevant to the debate right now. We can discuss that after.
Okay. Well, anyway, she touched your shoulder, and you said, "Don't touch me" or whatever, and she, was trying to physically get you out of the way or whatever, and then her boyfriend or whatever,
Her brother.
her brother, goes and starts trying to enforce her expectations on you.
Right.
So, when we're talking about expectations here, in the ebook, it doesn't state that your expectations can be dysfunctional and you can still get them to be met.
Oh, it does state that. It does state that. But it talks about different. There's two sides. There's your expectations, whether they're functional or dysfunctional. That's an issue, and it's discussed in the ebook. Then it talks about enforcing those expectations. It doesn't say you can't have dysfunctional expectations, because there's a section in the ebook that talks about preferences, and we all have preferences. Like, I like Mexican food. That's a preference. But a preference is a dysfunctional expectation. So, just because I prefer something doesn't mean it's going to make a relationship work. And just because I prefer something doesn't mean I'm going to enforce it, or even if I do enforce it, doesn't automatically mean the disintegration of the relationship. So, it's not strictly speaking, the issue isn't whether you have a functional or dysfunctional expectation, or whether you can enforce it or not. It's really the overall picture. It depends on how big the expectation is and how big of an effect it has on the relationship. For instance, I can enforce an expectation like we should eat Mexican food, and my girlfriend, let's say she doesn't like Mexican food, and we go eat it. It's not a really big deal. So it's not going to have such a huge detrimental effect on our relationship. Whereas if I enforce an expectation like we're going to have threesomes, that may have a huge impact. I may be able to get that met, but that can have a huge impact on our relationship. So it's not just strictly, you could say, it's the matter of the expectation being dysfunctional or not being able to enforce. It depends on what the expectation is and how good or bad you are at enforcing it.
Okay. So, I want to get to the subject now that initially started the little scuffle that me and you got into over the internet. I don't even know what that
God, I'm waiting for the scuffle. It sounds like an agreement, not a debate so far. Let's get it on. Let's take the gloves off. Let's start throwing dirty blows.
Well, it never was like that for me in the first place. All of a sudden, someone started calling me a pussy faggot.
Well, I believe you were a pussy faggot, and I believe it took you so long to even come to debate, I conclude that you were definitely a pussy faggot.
Okay. Great.
Your rebuttal to that, sir.
My rebuttal is, you're a loudmouth asshole.
Loudmouth, yes. Asshole. Well, I would agree with you in that asshole I would use in the same vernacular like a woman calls me an asshole or crazy or a jerk, meaning you're not giving me my way, so I would agree with you.
What is my way, though?
Like, if you want to have your way, your view, and I agree with your view, then I wouldn't be an asshole. Whereas if I disagree with you, I would automatically be an asshole, even if it was a good disagreement. So,
I wasn't even trying to enforce my view in the first place.
No, I believe you were. I believe you probably made a comment that was probably like a silly comment or a retarded comment, and I deleted it, which I do to silly comments. And if it was a challenge comment, I would have invited you to debate with us on the channel, because we like to have all our critics debate us just like this in this forum, so we can have these type of discussions. Because YouTube is no place to debate; it's a comment section, and it's easy to be unaccountable to your views when you're able to type them out. So we don't do that. We don't play that game. If we have a critic, we have a genuine critic who wants to make a criticism against us or our work. We say, come debate us live. Don't be a pussy and do it as a keyboard warrior. We want you to do it live, because you can be held accountable. It's easy for me to hold you accountable right now when you're speaking real time versus when you have a keyboard and you can play semantics with it. Just like I explained the legal issue, that's exactly what you could do behind a keyboard. You could play lawyer behind a keyboard, where it's much harder to do. I could point out your errors very quickly in a live debate.
I'm not sure that people take the internet that seriously. I mean,
they do and they don't. The internet
accountable over Skype.
Well, look,
I like to be civil and stuff like that, but it's like, okay, this guy is just screaming at me because I posted a comment on YouTube. It's like,
yeah, but how could you tell the fact? I know you take the internet more serious than me, because you're telling me I'm screaming at you, and a lot of people read caps as screaming. I mean, it's caps lock to me is a push of a button. It's not. I can't tell if they're screaming or not. The fact that people attribute screaming to a capital letter, it tells me already that people take the internet seriously. I mean, our life is lived on the internet, so of course that people take it seriously to a certain extent. Yes, when you're online and you have no social life, that kind of dictates a certain personality that is like a more brash, larger than life personality on screen than actual in real life. But that's also why we want to have these debates. We want to show the phoniness of our critics. Like these people who have so much bravado and so much gumption to say, you guys are wrong, and because of this and this, we want them to say that to our face. Why can't they say it to our face? Because they're cowards. They don't really mean those things. They're not their children. They're screaming into the wind. And we want to expose our critics to let people know that they really don't have a position that they can defend rationally, that they're just making empty claims, just like most people do on the internet. They make empty claims. This is why we need to have these debates. It's so important, because if you don't have these debates and we just leave it on the internet, the arguments are useless. You really can't point at your opponent's deficiencies or you can't expose bad views simply in writing. It's too easy for people to play lawyer. We've already demonstrated that countless times. So this is a perfect opportunity, this informal court, to let people judge the arguments in real time and let them see the reasoning behind those arguments. It all comes to the forefront. That's what's exposed. That's what we want to expose. Because if our position is really a bad position, you should have no problem exposing it.
Okay, so you support being open to the public as far as showing debates with people, but you will not accept comments that you don't agree with on your
Right,
channel.
because the channel it's too easy to become like to use it as a propaganda tool, to use it as just an announcement for something, an opinion that doesn't belong there, where we can't challenge that. And I'll give you a perfect example. If the top comment, like by a feminist, is just some stupid, retarded comment, it could be upvoted 1,000 times by feminists, and it'll be the top comment. And people will assume when they read that is the most important statement about this video, when it's complete bullshit, even though I have a response to that comment. Whereas in a debate, I can expose that as bullshit, and it won't be promoted and viewed a certain way or presented a certain way. So it's very easy to make views, to fraudulently bolster views on the internet. Whereas in a debate, you can't do that. I won't allow another person to do that to me or to my view. So I have a voice. If I could always attach my voice to their comment, no problem. But the way YouTube is set up doesn't allow for that. So no, I will not allow comments where I cannot respond to the criticism. If YouTube implemented a system where my comment was locked to their comment, great, no problem. But the way it is, no. We have always had the policy of allowing dissenting views. We smash dissenting views regularly. We have trouble even finding critics who will even face us. That shows how credible our work is.
Okay, so my original comment was that, okay, so I think it was about, like, when someone was going down the highway and a piece of cardboard flipped up into their windshield.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Something weird like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they drove off the road and hit someone and killed them, right? And you
Right.
said the person that hit the person off the road should pay with their life. And the person with the cardboard that didn't strap the cardboard down to their truck or whatever should also have a severe punishment as well. Maybe death, maybe not, you know.
Well, yeah, they're as much as they're irresponsible. I forgot what we said. We said something for sure, like about an act of God, like if there's a crack in the road or, something, lightning strikes. I forgot what we said for that stipulation. I know we mentioned it for sure. But, yeah, as much as you're irresponsible in causing that death, for instance, if the guy's not strapping it down and there's a strong wind, there's a reason why they tell you to strap things down a certain way. So that doesn't happen. So if that happens, freakishly strong wind comes along and blows your stuff away and you didn't properly strap it down, you should be held accountable. Even if it's like, you don't expect somebody to die, but if they die, it's just like, it's a difference between you running near a cliff and falling off and you being pushed off a cliff by somebody else. Now, in one case, you're just being careless. You're running along a cliff and you trip and fall and you die, right? Everybody expects you, if you fall off a cliff, you're going to die. Gravity takes over. If somebody pushes you off, it's not your fault. But do people expect you, because it's not your fault, to not die if you fall off a cliff? No, they know gravity works 100% of the time. So there's no, you notice there's no arguments against gravity? Because gravity teaches you to be responsible around a cliff. They know as soon as you get near that cliff, start being responsible, or there could be serious consequences. Either you're playing and being irresponsible and you could fall, or somebody accidentally pushes you, you fall. Either way, you're dead. So the issue is not like lawyers like to do, well, what was your intention behind the pushing, or how far were you running, or how long were you running along the cliff? Were you looking when your shoes tied? All these issues don't matter. All that matters is once you start getting near that edge, you need to start fucking being accountable for your behavior, or be careful because other people will be responsible near you. So if other people aren't accountable for their behavior, be careful when you're near them, because you're near a cliff. See when the punishment is consistent and enforceable, it changes people's behavior completely, right? We don't need to lecture people about don't play near cliffs. You don't see any public service announcements of, be careful about gravity. No. It's common sense, and we have enough examples, and the punishment is consistent enough where we don't have to go, oh, we need to make a law. No, the law is spontaneously there because the enforcement of the consequence is natural. It's consistent. That's how our legal system should be. It should be consistent, just like gravity. When it's consistent, it changes people's behavior. When laws are inconsistent, They don't change shit. We just have to make more laws.
So okay, and then this leads into the safety net. It's like we have a cliff, and then we have a safety net below where you're walking.
Okay. You're still banking on the safety net, though. You're taking a risk.
Exactly, yeah, that right there. And then you went into the analogy about, like if you just all of a sudden took over the legal system right now, just boom, you had control over it. You would let everybody go.
Yes.
Right. And
even hardcore criminals, yes.
Right.
Serial killers, mass murderers, rapists, everything. I would let them all go.
Yeah, and you stick by that. You
yes.
think that would work.
100% guarantee it would work, because people think, well, you're letting terrible people out, but they don't realize the real difference, which I realize, is enforcement, because I would enforce, whereas people today don't enforce, and that's exactly why we have the legal system we have today. Or that's exactly why we have the highest incarceration rate on earth in our country today, because people don't enforce. I would enforce, and you would see a drastic... I mean, we could just, like I said, we just look at gravity. Same thing. Do we have to worry about enforcing around cliffs? No, because we know there's going to be a punishment 100% of the time, and it's going to be consistent. So there's no thought of, like, worrying about, oh, people are going to run around cliffs. Just like when parents see children run the street, they get angry, they get pissed, and they spank their kids, right? Why do they get so angry? Because they know there's no second chance if you get hit by a car. You don't get to go, oh, well, his intention was good in running out in the street. He was chasing after a ball, so he shouldn't get hit that hard if his intention is good. No. Whether your intention's bad, you're negligent, accident, doesn't matter. If you get hit by a car, you're dead. Same consequence. That's why parents are super angry. They don't care about the excuse. Don't play. And then there's going to be enforcement if you do play in the road. So, just like that with gravity, just like with a legal system, don't play around, because there is going to be a consequence. I'm going to let everybody go, but with a stipulation that people won't understand until it actually happens. They're going to see some people fall off the proverbial cliff, so to speak, and see them splat. And once they start seeing people splat in my new legal system, they're going to go, oh, this guy doesn't fuck around. There's a new sheriff in town. Society's going to operate a different way, guaranteed.
I think you're underestimating how fucked up people really are.
No, I think you're underestimating how badly our legal system is today, or how badly our legal system operates today.
They don't care if they die. They don't. They do that. They don't even think about that.
Yeah, but you don't realize that. Why is the reason why they don't think about that? Because we have such a bad consequence enforcement system. If you got spanked when you were younger, you would think about that. Right now, we're trying to outlaw spanking. That's why criminals don't think about that. Criminals don't think about their actions at all, because there is that lack of enforcement at a very early age.
So, I mean, lethal injection, that kind of stuff that still exists today, is not severe enough.
Well, the problem is, before you get to lethal injection, you need a spanking. If you don't have a spanking leading up to lethal injection, I guarantee you, if you had spanking, you would have nowhere near the amount of people on death row, or even in prisons. Enforcement starts young, not when you're at the height of your criminal activity.
Okay. Well, I feel like that's, well, I'm trying to think of how that could be enforced, and it just seems too extreme, and it just seems like it's going to, it's just putting in a box something that a much bigger problem. Like,
well, here's the thing you don't have experience with. Enforcing your authority, enforcing your expectations. Once you are able to enforce your expectations, you will be able to extrapolate to family situations, to government situations, to work situations. Right now you can't extrapolate because you don't even know what enforcing your expectations is like. I do know. That's why I'm saying this. You don't know. I would tell you, first, govern your own relationship. Once you can do that, then you will be able to see that. If you aren't able to do that right now, you aren't. There's no way you could possibly extrapolate to these different types of situations. It's out of your realm of possibility. You have to even see it's possible first. You have to know how it works first in order to be able to extrapolate.
Well, like in a relationship, yes, but like say, like in school, like throughout school, like you had to enforce your expectations.
Right, but you're saying in a relationship, yes, as if it's a given that you can already enforce your expectations in a relationship when you obviously can't. So, how are your relationships? How are your romantic relationships? I'm going to guess not good.
Okay, fine. I mean, you don't even know me, so...
Oh, I do know you. That's why I said not good. If I didn't know you, I would say I don't know what they're like. I'm saying not good exactly because I do know you.
Okay. What do you know about me, then?
I know that you can't enforce your expectations, and if you can't enforce your expectations, your relationships will not be good. Especially your romantic relationships.
It's not about that I can't enforce my expectations, it's that I don't want to.
Oh, you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
You don't want sex. You don't want your girl to not cause problems in a relationship. You don't want any of that. You don't want to. Is that what you're telling me?
Nope. I don't.
So you're trying to be a monk? You're trying to be asexual? You don't like sex? What's the deal?
Well, no, I mean, I have one-night stands once in a while.
So you prefer one-night stands to having consistent sex? Is that what you're telling me?
At this point, yeah.
At this point, you're trying to sell me on the idea, as a guy who's had probably more one-night stands than you have, that you prefer one-night stands to having sex whenever you can get it. That's what you're telling me. You're trying to sell me on that idea.
It's because I can't stand, like, doing that whole thing, like, female.
Why can't you stand that? Because you can't get your sexual needs met is what you're essentially telling me. You don't know how to deal with women is what you're essentially telling me. What I just told you in the beginning. You don't know how to get your needs met in a relationship. Therefore, you don't like that relationship. You're not having good relationships with women.
There's too much in my life, period.
Too much in your life? What is there so much in your life that is not in every other person's life?
It's like I work 2 jobs, I go to
school. Jobs are irrelevant. Jobs have nothing to do with your ability to govern a relationship. Just because I work a lot doesn't mean I can't still manage a relationship when I'm in the relationship. How does one affect the other?
There is way less time to do all that stuff.
What do you mean time? You're managing when you're with that person. That's all you need to manage when you're with that person. Right. There's no, when you're away at work, then something mysteriously happens. No, it all happens when you're with that person. And when you're not at work, you're with that person. So that is the time when you are managing.
Okay.
And you're a bad manager is my point.
Yeah, I'm 23. I don't...
So now you're using your age as an excuse. Before you said you weren't a bad manager, now you're using your age as an excuse. I'm 23, of course I don't know how to manage.
Yeah, because I'm young.
So before it was, you didn't know how to manage, but now it's because you're 23, that's the problem. Once you hit 24, or 27, or 30, now you'll know how to manage somehow, magically, right?
No, that's not it. I'm working through it.
How do you work through it? Tell me, what are the steps that you go from not being able to manage a relationship to now suddenly you're older and you can manage a relationship? How does that work?
You gotta learn.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. I want to learn. How do I learn what you're going to learn about managing a relationship? What do I need to learn?
Get into more social interactions.
Talk to more people. Okay, how is talking to more people going to help me manage a relationship with a woman? How?
Because it'll help me figure out how to enforce my social expectations.
Enforce your social expectations. It'll help you figure it out. You know how many guys I've talked to that don't know how to figure it out, that are much older than you?
No.
This is a worldwide site. This is not just in America. This is a worldwide site. I talk to a lot of guys on a daily basis. Not just students, visitors as well. There are a lot of guys that are older than you that don't know what the fuck they're doing. So I hate to dispel your illusions here, but age isn't going to help you, or just dealing with more people isn't going to help you.
Well, great. I mean, if I can get more direction in that regard, then I'm grateful for it. But,
well, that's exactly why we exist, to help clueless guys like you manage your relationships.
Impotent guy, I'm not. I'm pretty capable at it.
You're pretty capable, and you just told me you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You can't even give me a straight answer. How could you be capable when you can't give me a straight answer?
Because I'm not in the social interaction phase. It's like you go...
Social interaction? What do you mean? There's no phase? There's no magical phase. We're talking right now. That's a social interaction. As soon as we start talking, that's a social interaction. It's no magical second phase. If we suddenly brought a girl here, I would talk to the same way I'm talking to you. There's no magic switch I'm throwing all of a sudden.
That's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
What do you mean then?
I mean, when I'm trying to go and, learn more and start enforcing my expectations, I have to be away from work. I have to do all these things.
What does being away from work have to do with any of you enforcing your expectations in any relationship? What does that have to do at all with any of that?
Allocating time.
What does time have to do? I just told you. It's irrelevant because when you're not at work, you're with her or whoever you're with, your friends, your buddies, whatever. That's when you're managing. Right now, you're trying to manage your expectations with me. Anytime you're talking to somebody, you're trying to manage and enforce your expectations. There is no magical time window. It's when you're not working. When you're not at work, you're managing your expectations. Even with people at work, you're managing your expectations. There's no time when you're not managing your expectations, except when you're dead.
Okay, I've had enough of this pity party and talking about myself.
It's not a pity party. It's an exposing party to let you know you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And a result of not knowing what the fuck you're doing in your own life, consequently, you don't know what to do in an extrapolated life like a government, a society, a bigger picture life. That's my main point here. If you knew what to do in your microcosm life, in your small social circle life, you would know what to do in the bigger picture. My answers would make more sense to you. That is the point of me harping on your personal life right now.
Okay, so I understand that. I understand that I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And I understand that no one around me knows what the fuck they're doing.
Well, if you understood that, then your inquiry about, I don't think this would work, or I just don't see this happening, you wouldn't even have that question.
Mm-hmm.
That question would be solved by you learning how to manage your own relationships. Once you understand that principle, you can easily extrapolate that to larger groups of people, to a family, to a work, to a community, to a country.
Okay. So, what do you suggest?
I suggest you enroll at the academy. That is my suggestion for you.
Okay. I don't have anything else to debate right now.
So that's it? Well, do you tap? Are you tapping? This could be a record. Are you tapping?
No, I don't want to tap.
You don't want to. All right. I guess let's go to Blue. Are we going to audience reaction?
Let's go to audience reactions unless you have anything more to say.
Honestly, it just got kind of fucking weird at the end. I don't even understand what was going on. Like, he's right about enforcing expectations. I suck at it, but, you know, I think as long as I keep working at it, it's not going to be such a huge issue eventually.
Well, I think after a few listenings of this debate, it'll come more clear for you. But right now, you're involved in it, so it's going to be harder for you to digest everything. But for now, we're going to go to audience reactions. So let's go to Chewy.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Oh, sweet. What do I think about this debate? I think this guy needs to enroll. I really would like to see him do that. Because, just... I have no reactions.
That's
Fuck it,
bullshit.
I'm done.
This guy's bullshit.
Yeah,
A complete waste of
give me
time,
that,
Blue.
give me that.
Why did you even
I know
call on
it's
this guy?
I'm incompetent.
What a waste
Go
of
ahead.
my time, Blue.
Alright. Let's go to General Butt Naked.
This is the first one I've attended. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, speak up. Go ahead.
Yes, this is the first one I've actually attended. But it wasn't really more of a debate. It was more of somebody who was getting a lesson. Because every time Plum said something, you were more like, it sounded like you were just internalizing what he was telling you. It didn't sound like you were arguing anything. Then you came up with your next point, you addressed it, then you internalized it and moved on. It didn't really feel like a debate. The debate's back and forth and you have a strong argument. It just seemed to me that you just got like a really good lesson. I mean, and I'm not saying that in a sarcastic way. I mean, you got a really good lesson. You got a really good eye-opening. Because all that stuff you were talking about your age and all that stuff, I've been there, done that stuff the same way, and it's going to come full circle. So, like Blue said, later on, I think you'll appreciate the lesson you got when you go back and listen to it. But it didn't really feel like a debate. It just felt like you learned something today, Steve.
Alright, let's go to Funkymon.
Can we go to the guy that was smirking the entire time in the debate? He's got a blue shirt on.
Yeah, let's go to him after Funkymon. Go to Funkymon, then we'll go to him. We'll go to Smirker.
Guy with the blue shirt.
Yeah.
We'll go to the Smirky guy.
Okay. Okay, when I heard this debate, the part about the social interaction, I felt like it wasn't going going anywhere, especially when you were lecturing him. And I don't even know. I just got in and it felt all over the place, and it just felt like you were just lecturing him most of the time.
You were expecting a throwdown.
Yeah. I was expecting like something like that.
He was expecting a throwdown, and it became a classroom lesson. He was bored. Okay, let's go to Smirky shirt.
Oh, it's Death by Porn. Death by Porn.
Yo. Okay, well...
First of all, explain your smirk, and then get to your point.
I'm gonna...
They're connected. Okay, they're connected.
Yes,
Got it.
yes.
Right.
Okay, so as soon as I came into the debate, I saw Saztrum, and I talked to him a little bit when the debate started, and he seemed like he was very definite, very clear on what he wanted to talk about. He seemed like, I thought he was actually going to give you a run for your money, Plum. And, but it turned out to be the exact opposite. It turned out to be basically just an extended version of class where I basically watched you talk to him the whole time. And, that doesn't bug me so much. That's not why I was smirking. The reason I was smirking was at the end, when he was making up, excuses and trying to dodge around your criticisms and kind of run around them without, it's my age because of this, it's because of that. It reminded me of myself. and my first conversation with you when I first came to the academy. So the whole time this was happening, the whole time he was making up those excuses, I was kind of like, I was seeing this and seeing myself and just kind of agreeing, and getting into the memories. But I expected more out of this debate, and I did get what I wanted. I got to hear some brand new perspectives from you, Plum. You brought out the principles in you meted them out in a new way that I'd never heard before. And that's my reaction.
All right, thank you, Death Horn. Let's go to Reed.
Hey, I have very little reactions except this didn't feel like a debate at all.
Hold on, Blue, can you mute the other mics because we're getting feedback? I just want to hear Reed right now.
Is everything muted?
Just click mute all, Blue, and then unmute Reed. Motherfucker.
Everyone's on mute. Actually, I think that feedback's coming from Sastrom.
Okay, go ahead.
Alright, so I just wanted to say that this didn't really feel like a debate. It felt more like,
Blue, could you mute his mic, please? Motherfucker.
So I wasn't disappointed. I was more surprised that I didn't get that debate. Like, we didn't get that clash of views. It was just more like, Sastrom was just writing along with Plum, which is a good thing, because that means he's understanding the material. So I just want to see this guy enroll. I don't have really any reactions, because it seemed like a class to me.
All right, thank you, Reed. And let's go to Furniture.
Yeah, I wasn't really here that long, but I heard you were talking about the consistency of the principles. I think you addressed this the last debate where, if you're hanging around at the edge, there's going to be a consequence, and the consequences shouldn't vary. Other than that, yeah, like everybody said, it was like a learning lesson at the end, and you're just educating him. And he was being a little reluctant at first, but I think he understood it, and I think he'll listen to this again and, understand even more, and hopefully enroll.
So, all right, let's go to Raymond.
He wasn't here. Skip.
I wasn't here, but I will say definitely enroll, because it's a cool experience.
That sounds like propaganda. This guy wasn't here. I would like to strike his testimony from the record, Blue.
All right, stricken from the record.
Thank you.
Let's go to Mr. Shy Guy Shepherd.
Hey, when I heard this guy talk about his views, I kind of gotta say, I hold many of the same views still right now. And that's part of the reason why I enrolled in this academy, because I realized that the way that I was, like, my outlook on life and my views on women, they weren't really getting me into any kind of relationships at all, So, and also, yeah, I felt like this wasn't really a debate. This was really just a class. He was kind of silent most of the time, and Plum was doing, like, 90% of the talking. So I guess I was kind of disappointed, because I really wanted to hear him, like, assert his views and see what kind of a reaction we get from Plum. But yeah, definitely enroll. I feel like enrolling here has given me more confidence in my social relationships. And, that's my reaction.
Propaganda.
It sounds like propaganda film.
Let's go to Payson.
I was disappointed with this debate. I didn't like it because it was just sounded like another classroom to me. This guy comes in and mainly he's just agreeing with what the professor is saying. I dislike that because I want them to scream at each other, I want everybody to get butthurt, I want Professor to start yelling, but I like it because this guy, it seems like he knows how to listen to the professor. Like, it's like he has a greater ability to reason than most of the guests that have come on to debate. And so I like that part about him. So, yeah, that's my reaction.
All right, thank you for that. Let's go to Poser.
I like this debate. Even though there's no other crazy arguments or drama, these kind of debates, it helps to, for clarification of some of the ideas of the academy and that happened in this debate. And clearly when those ideas are clarified and the other party was able to understand, he was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. So it's good to see that. Sure, you can argue crazy chicks and have entertainment, but ultimately, I like either one, and in fact, I like this better. And now that these debates make sense to men, and when I can see it making sense to men right in front of my eyes, I like that. And it's almost like this guy might consider, oh, wow, this is actually sensible stuff, and he might join here. And so I like this debate. That was my reaction.
So he likes the sophisticated stuff. He doesn't like the show. He doesn't like the pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, I like shows too, but we can have that if we want to. But these are nice too. I like this even better.
Okay. Blue, what about you? Thanks, Poser.
Sastrom didn't come into the debate with many disagreements, but I always appreciate how old topics can come up and how you have the ability to make it fresh and new and coming from a whole different perspective, different examples, just to clarify what's in the ebook. But I always appreciate the debates because they do expose our critics, and I believe this was educational. It wasn't, all the debates are educational. But I think this was especially educational for Sastrom because he came in here with mostly questions and not actual arguments. But we appreciate the questions. I think questions are welcome. But I want to throw it out there that Manhood Academy is looking for the baddest, biggest mofo out there. We want Johnny Cochran to come into the debate.
What the fuck? I'm not ready for Johnny Cochran. All right, well, if you said it, I guess I have to do it.
Yeah, we want the biggest, baddest mofo. Preferably a guy every girl that we've debated has cried, has rage quit, could not finish the debate. So we're looking for a guy. If you're a girl who can come to the challenge, please sign up to in our debate center. But that's all I have to say.
Oh, we should also thank Blackform for coming over. And
as always, we like to thank the guests for coming, and we enjoyed ourselves.
Hot dog, please.